Good morning, everyone. I think we are live. I always have to check that because it takes a few minutes on the delay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Rebel Roundtable, the last Friday in July. We are live streaming, and I am super excited. I always say that, but I think I have such awesome guests that it's just so much fun to have people on. So I'm excited to have Kelli Proia here today. And Kelli is a lawyer, but she's a little similar to me, where she's turned into a coach and consultant and a professor and all these cool things that aren't the traditional lawyer things. So, Kelli, thank you for being here and tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing now.
Well, thank you for having me, Jen. I really appreciate this. Yes, I am what some people call a recovering lawyer. I'm simply a former lawyer who I practiced intellectual property law for 16 years, mostly in-house. I had my own solo practice for about 4 years. And there came a time where I kind of decided, do I really want to keep practicing law or not? So I made the actually rather tough decision to start practicing law, but to move into something more exciting that I found more exciting. And that was coaching, at the time, business development coaching for lawyers. Having started my own practice, I really realized how much we didn't learn in law school about the business of law. We learned nothing. Because I had worked in corporate America, because when I started my practice, I did a lot of things like online classes on marketing and sales, and I hired a coach, and I did all of these things to figure out how to be a really good business owner. And
Mm.
I realized like no one in law is teaching this to anybody else to lawyers. So I said, I'm going to do it. So I did. So for the past 10 years, I have been teaching mostly business development. But in the last 2 years, I have started to transition into what I call life coaching for lawyers.
Mhm.
So a lot of the conversation when you're talking about the business stuff of law starts to revolve around stress, starts
Yep.
to revolve around burnout. It starts to revolve around things that, again, they don't talk to you about in law school. And what I realized is I cannot tell a person, go get more clients, go do more law, if that is really actually hurting their physical, mental health.
Yep.
So there had to be something in between, because the first question I always ask my clients is, do you like practicing law? Because if you don't like practicing law, we have a fundamental problem.
That's a problem. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a problem. And so most lawyers will tell me, yeah, I really like practicing law. But after a couple of sessions, you start getting into the nitty gritty and the truth
Yep.
comes out. And there are, yes, they like the concept of practicing law, but the actual practice of law is crushing them,
Yep.
is really in some way hurting them. And amongst all of that, in 2018, I was invited by Suffolk University Law School to co-teach a class called 21st Century Lawyer at the law school with another professor. And after that year, the professor told me, it's now yours.
Yep.
You have this class. So
Awesome.
since then, I have showed up every spring to my class of about 20 students to teach them what it is to be a 21st century lawyer. So whatever that even means.
Well, but I think we have similar stories. Like we have similar backgrounds where we came and you're like, this doesn't make sense. No one taught us this and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And so I totally on board with that and rebelling against that whole idea. But I think that's where the 21st century, like the things you've done have got you to the point where we're talking about the 21st century lawyer and what that actually means. And it's not the billable hour grind. And it's not all like you can do a lot of different things. And I think that was never really introduced. And I'm glad to see law schools doing it somewhat now. I know they're still hesitant on it, but what are you seeing though as the most like stuck in the past mindsets? Like when you start working with people, you're
So I'll tell you a story. A good friend of mine, she this would have been in like 2023. She had a court hearing at a court that was about an hour and a half from her firm. So
okay.
she called the court and asked, is this hearing going to be in person or is it going to be a Zoom hearing? Because
Mhm.
at that point during the pandemic, we had moved into Zoom hearings and it was a thing, right? So
Yep.
the clerk literally tells her, young lady, real lawyers show up in court. And that's a mindset.
Yep.
What does it actually mean to be a lawyer?
Yep.
So for 2 years, he had been doing something virtual, but in his head, law was practiced in person in court.
Yep.
And you're never going to break that person of that
Yep.
mindset. So if you move on to somebody like Richard Susskind, the legal futurist who wrote like The Future of the Professions, the Tomorrow's Lawyers, he wrote a book about online dispute resolution and the future of the courts.
Mhm.
And he asks a different question. His question is the court a place? Is it a building? Is it a place we go and do law? Or is court an idea and is it a service to justice that
Mhm.
leads to justice? And if you take the mindset that the court is a building, is a place, is someplace where law happens, you get stuck in a very 19th, 20th century mindset. Because back then you had no choice but to show up in court
Yep.
because there was no what we're doing today.
Mhm.
But if you move beyond court as a building, court is actually a service to justice. So it is a place people go to get their disputes heard and resolved. If it's this mindset, then does it matter if the court is a building, is a place, or is it a concept where we can actually do this online or we can do
Yeah.
this in another form?
Mhm.
And that's where the difference for me between the 19th and 20th century lawyer and the 21st century lawyer. Same principles like justice and trying to help people with their, disputes and things like that.
Yeah. Whatever
But
problem you have. Yeah.
yes, so that's how I view it. It's like, do I view the lawyer, the 21st century lawyer, as somebody who like uses AI and does this? It's like yes and no. Do I
Mhm.
want them to use AI? Probably.
Yeah.
But that's not what makes you a 21st century lawyer. It's
Mhm.
actually the mindset. Because I say if you put AI over bad business practices, over bad mindset, you're
Disaster.
going to get bad results.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you're preaching to the choir, but yes, I agree. Like it's the mindset is the first hurdle, and then you can get into all the things that help resolve things. But I really like what you said about the is it a place or is it an environment? Is it something that what's the goal here? And I think that
Right.
would be really key to keep in mind. Do you think, or why do you think, and I see this, I'm not going to harp on judges too much, but what I see though is there are some lawyers who are ready to get there, but then certain judicial systems are really, really stuck with
Yes.
that. It's a building. Are you seeing some change there? What do you think the resistance is to it?
I think the resistance is the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of it. So I think it's what happens when I'll use the word blow this up. Like what happens when we do something different? And in some people's minds, they can project forward and see something that is beautiful and glorious and that but other people look forward and say, I really can't see the future
Mm.
that's not based on the past. So it can be like, and it happens like somebody, like some people are visual people, some people
Yep.
aren't. It's like, if you describe, like something like a renovation to somebody can see it in their mind's eye, but other people are like, I need to see it on pen and paper, and you need to show me, 3D visuals of it
Yeah.
before I
Yep.
understand. And I think that is a big part of they really can't imagine something different from what is today. I
Okay.
also think there's part of the profession that really views the profession as if we change it, we are less of a profession. There's
Yes.
something about the courthouse. There's something about the
Illusion of prestige.
yes, that's exactly
Yes.
the word I was looking that like if I show up in my suit and stand before the judge, there is an instant cachet that I get that I won't get sitting in my office talking to the judge like we are talking right now. And does that cheapen the prestige of law? Does that, and those are the things where like we have to wrestle as a profession. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people who like talk about like if we allow say like paraprofessionals to come in and help, you know, our
Mhm.
clients, we have that debate, and it's literally this debate over our status in a pecking order that we don't want to get let go of.
Right. Yeah. It's gatekeeping at its finest, I think is how I look at it, is we don't want, and I understand some of that, but I also think that that's, again, the mindset is the problem there.
Yes, yes. And I always go back to mindset. It's
Yeah.
like, what makes you a 21st century lawyer? Like, I know a lot of lawyers who are young and, you know, would consider themselves 21st century lawyers, but they definitely have that, like, you know, 19th, 20th century mindset.
And that's where I struggle too. When because I often work with law firms and lawyers and organizations who are, they want to modernize things, or the associates want to modernize, but they can't convince like leadership or management of the firm to modernize their practice. And as soon as there's a mindset problem, it's a non-starter for me. I'm like, I can't do anything until they're at least open to discussing this. Yeah.
Exactly. And if they're not open to discussing it, it's not worth the engagement.
It's not, no, yeah. So talking about modernizing practice, and we get the mindset a little bit. What are you seeing these days with lawyers rethinking like their pricing and their packaging and the billable hour stuff? There's so many ways I could go with this, but I was like, let's just throw it out there and see where we go.
Okay, so the billable hour. Um,
Yes.
in my humble opinion, the billable hour is the source of all ills that are in the legal profession
Yes.
today, because you cannot, when you make money based on time, the only thing you care about is time. And
Yep.
you end up in this vicious cycle of, if I go to lunch, I'm wasting time. If I go and take an hour or two to go, you know, to the doctor,
Right.
I'm wasting time.
Yep.
And I see this a lot because we are so hell bent on charging for every minute of our time. And for me, I always see these things the end of the billable hour, like, and I saw that in like the year 2000 when the internet was
Right.
a new thing. Like,
Still
you know,
here.
when you over time you see these, and
Yeah.
it's like, I'll be honest, I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. And even like people say, well, AI has to change that model. And I'm like, they're gonna hold on to it until like it's like ripped out of their cold dead
All
hands,
dead hands. Yes.
like that whole model. That, and
Yes.
that's where it's like I don't, yeah, I see some firms, but they're at the margins. The firms
Mhm.
that do like the flat fee billing, the, you know, the package
Yep.
pricing,
Yep.
they are, and they're limited to really um trust and estates law. Like you see like a package, a will and a trust for $5,000. Like you see the
I would,
packages in
yeah,
there.
I would argue with that. I've done packages for all practice areas pretty much.
Understood,
Yeah, no,
understood.
yes, but I agree
But
with you.
that's where I see it
Yeah,
most is
yes, yeah,
in, but in like anything that resembles like
yes,
litigation,
yeah,
anything that is
yeah,
resembles like high, I shouldn't even say higher up the food chain work, because it's not. Like trust and estates work is very important work. It's just there, it's just not penetrating
yeah,
into
yeah.
other areas.
But it's interesting because when you say that, you're talking about burnout and you're talking about the billable hour and that kind of thing. Billable hours, the maximum money you can make is the amount of hours you're willing to work. And when we do all the studies and we work with all the clients I've worked with, it shows that not billing by the hour and billing by some other form is almost always more profitable and generates more revenue. And so it's fascinating to me how stuck that mindset and how hard it is to overcome. So
It amazes me that like that's one of the sticking points
yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of like moving the profession forward is something that like our business model. Like, have you ever watched The Gilded Age? Like the
Mm-mm.
show, one of those shows about like the Victorians in the early
Yeah.
90s, the really rich, wealthy people who built the mansions like that are down the road from me here in Rhode Island. The cottages, the summer cottages that are 60,000 square feet. Um, the the modern law firm was invented at that time, like
Yeah.
the time of the Gilded Age. And the like the first billable hour I think was like 1917, around that time. And it's just like we are still stuck in like this really antiquated business model.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, we will not move off of it. And that is one of the things that always surprises me, because I think they all feel they're going to make less money.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest thing, and the fear of the unknown. Like you said, lawyers tend to be type A people. When you go to law school, like you're surrounded by people that are just all like boom, boom, boom. And those of us who think outside the box are slightly outcast sometimes because we're not following, in lockstep all the time.
So I always find this is a really like weird thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So Paul Cravath, the lawyer, the intellectual property lawyer who represented Westinghouse versus Thomas Edison in the current wars, is the person who actually invented associates. So prior to the year like 1900, the biggest law firms were four lawyers. They were partners. They were loosely associated. They were sharing office space and law clerks, but they weren't like they were just basically solo practitioners practicing in the same office, right? He invented associates. Prior to him, there was no such thing as a paid associate. They were unpaid law clerks, and they weren't lawyers. So he actually invented this whole thing, and they called it the legal factory. Like his contemporaries were like, like there's Cravath and his legal factory. But the thing about Cravath that, I'm not blaming him. I mean, he actually came up with a brilliant idea at the time he came
At the
up with
time.
it.
Yeah.
Is he was the quintessential type A personality.
Mm-hmm.
So he only wanted to hire lawyers for his firm who were the same as him. So he actually, not only did he say, I'm going to pay associates, he told the law schools, I want untrained lawyers. I will train them in my image.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is he trained a bunch of type A lawyers to be type A, like to be uber type A lawyers, like, right? So he created this mindset where it's like, to be a successful lawyer, you have to work 24/7 and bill. And that's great when the like when I started in law in 1993, we had no like no email, like faxing was just a thing.
Right.
We would take a case, we would type out a letter. The letter would get mailed with a stamp to the client. So we would know we'd have 2 weeks in between
Yeah.
to like work on something
20
else.
minutes.
Not 20 minutes. And I think that's another thing where it's like, if you take a model that was based on something that you had time in between, like this model was not based on Slack messages, text messages, email messages. It was based on something where it was a gentlemanly profession, where you wrote a letter and you waited for the letter to come back, and you could bill that way. You could leave time in the margins for yourself.
Yeah.
But now it's like there is no time in the margins. Like I was reading somebody saying they got like 12 calls in one day from one client.
Yeah.
Like you can't
keep
function.
up with that. Yeah.
You can't keep up with that.
I mean, some of that comes down to setting client expectations. I find a lot of models are broken with how they onboard and do that. That's a whole other discussion we could probably jump into.
God, yeah.
But it's funny that you said that they wanted untrained lawyers, because when I had my firm, I always wanted lawyers who were brand new, because I didn't want to train the billable hour out of them.
Yes.
So I wanted untrained lawyers, so I didn't have to train that out of their mindset. So that's hilarious. Okay, so mindset and all that thing. Let's talk about like tactical things. If
Okay.
someone's watching this and listening to this, they're fed up, they're overwhelmed. And they're willing to listen. Do you have any like tips and things that they can at least start to reimagine kind of what they're doing?
So what I usually start with my clients is clarity.
Mm-hmm.
So what I feel like when I start working with a lawyer and what makes them overwhelmed is, again, the sheer influx of information coming at them,
Yep.
and that ability to discern what they need to work on and what can wait, or what is not even, like, I don't even need to see that. And it's just like somebody said something like, we are inundated with like thousands of marketing messages a day.
Yep.
And
Yep.
our brain is trained to filter out what we don't need and what we care about.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens with the total influx of the ding of the phone, the ding of our tablet, the ding of the computer, the ding of our watch,
All
like
the things.
all the things, and it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's an overwhelming amount of information for a brain that is not yet capable of taking in all of that information. So what I usually start with is something called clarity. So it's like, we start with what is on your desk.
Yeah.
What do you need to care about? What moves the needle forward, I think, is the best thing. So it's like, what can you keep? What can you get rid of?
Yep.
So like something I learned like in my own life, like I needed to get rid of being on the parent council at my daughter's school.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's not moving my needle forward. Every time I was getting ready to go to a meeting, I literally was like angry that I
You're all
had to
stressed
go.
out. Yeah.
I was all
Frustrated.
stressed out. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and my husband's like, why are you doing this to yourself? I was like, and it's like, I have like no answer for that. I have
Because
no
that's how
good
I've
answer
always
for that.
done it.
Right. So like I see lawyers trying to do like too much.
Yeah.
Like, how many committees are you on in the firm? How many passion projects do you have in the community? What really matters? So like you had mentioned that you were in a networking group prior to our
Yeah.
meeting. It's like,
Yeah.
I know lawyers who've been in groups for like 10 years. And I said, well, how many clients do you get out of that group? It's like, well, I've gotten one in 10 years. I'm like, is that a good use of your
Is that
time?
moving your needle forward?
Right. But they don't ever stop
Yeah.
and evaluate. And the other thing I think lawyers really need to do is, what do you value?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that causes the most stress that I see is an incongruency with values. So it's like a lawyer will say, I value my family. You cannot value your family and work 18 hours a day at the same time.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
those are two competing principles.
Yep.
But they'll say, no, I really value my family. I would die for my family. I would do all these things for like, right. And then it's like, if it's not showing up in your life and
Mm-hmm.
you're actually not taking the actual steps to work the value, to actually be in the value, to actually, you end up with your mind
Is
is
fighting
holding,
itself.
it's
Yeah.
fighting itself. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
holding two opposing viewpoints at the same time. And what people also don't realize is the organ that takes the most energy is your brain.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not your heart, it's not your muscles, it's your brain. So when you're overworking your brain, even subconsciously, you're like, why am I drained at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Because you've literally overworked your brain, and your brain will take whatever energy it needs from wherever it can get it.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing where it's like that, like, clarity, and then that, like, what do you really value? And once you set those up, once you understand, then you can make changes with knowledge. But if you
Right.
just start going in and making changes, they're not going to
Not gonna work.
take hold. Not
Yeah.
going to take hold.
You said something interesting there too, that um, talking about words versus actions. Like you say one thing, but your actions, so that I see that all the time with people where they're like, oh, this is what we value. But then when you look at what they do, it's completely different. And I think that budding of those two value systems is a lot of the stress that attorneys cause themselves.
So I was invited to a big law firm by a partner, and so I go to the
And how'd that go?
yep. So no, so I go
Yeah.
into the he comes out to get me in the lobby, and he's taking me back to a conference room within the bowels of the firm, right? And as we're walking, every door is closed, and and there are cubicles along the hallway with the support staff, and the support staff all have like the Bose headphones on,
Right.
and in this office space you can hear a pin drop. Like you could literally hear the pin drop on carpet. It's so quiet. And he is literally telling me, as we're going, we are so collaborative. We are like in and out of each other's offices all the time. We are like just the most collaborative firm you can imagine. Like we work together like peanut butter and jelly. Like, and I'm looking around going, mm-mm,
Okay.
mm-mm. Like, do you do that one day a week and I'm not here on that day? Or is it like, and this was like way pre-pandemic. So
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody was in the
In the
office.
office.
Like there
Yeah.
was no, there's no virtual meetings. Like everyone's in the office. So it's that what you say is like, you're not even taking in like your environment. Like you're not even seeing it. It's like you're regurgitating something that the firm told you they valued. But in practice, it is completely the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are the things where it's like actions and words.
Yeah.
Like, and I think a lot of firms, like one of the words I absolutely hate the word integrity. When you see these firms like say, we are trustworthy, we have integrity, like, these marketing words they have.
Right.
Like, no, you don't. You do not have integrity. Because I know for a fact with all the lawyers I talk to, most of them, the biggest person they lie to is themselves.
Yep.
It's like if you don't have integrity with yourself, you don't have integrity. And that's the truth, that like that's what I have come to realize over, like, I've been in law since 1993 as when I was a legal assistant. I've had many, hats, worn many hats in this field. And that's the thing that I know the most, is that if you keep lying to yourself, I can keep doing this, I can keep working, and I can keep doing all of these things, and it will all work out someday. Like, how's that working for you? I'll get the payout someday. That's the big one. I'll get paid out someday. I'll make big bucks someday. I'll make the millions someday. Like,
well,
good
I
luck
do
with
think
that.
that some of that, and we can go on and on. Some of that too, generational differences. I love what some of the younger generations are doing to like law firms and legal markets, because they're completely upending that.
Yes.
If the longer hours you work, the more productive you are, when really it can be the opposite with the efficiencies and tools out there. So I do love the pushback and the rebelling against some of this as much as possible.
I absolutely love it. It's the issue. Like, so we had a student win a competition. He wrote an app, and it was a really cool app, and he puts it out on the App Store, and he's a student, and his first job out of law school is at a large law firm in Boston.
Okay.
And all of us said, great for him, but he is not going to touch that app for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to do anything like that for the next 15 years, because that's not what law firms want.
Right.
They want they want young lawyers to go in and chew through hours so that the partners can make their money, because that's how you do it. It's like, yep, you're time bound by your hours, but if I can arbitrage the number of associates I work with, I can take some of their hours.
If I can burn them out too.
Right. But that's the model. That literally is the model to making big money. Yeah. And what I also find is, maybe back in the day, maybe the boomers did make big money, but today what I'm finding is most lawyers I talk to, it is a middle class job now. Yeah. Like, they're not making even lawyers who like bill over $1 million By the time they pay for their partnership, by the time they pay for their overhead, by the time they do the taxes and do all these things, they're making a modest middle class income.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. Yeah. Fascinating. There's so many ways we could go off of this. I have like 22,000 more questions here in front of me that I could run through, but I do try to keep to 30 minutes so that
no, and
yeah.
it is. Thank you. I appreciate you letting me talk, because this is an area for me. If you had asked me in 1990, like, so I started law school in 1995.
Yeah.
So if there was a class called 21st Century Lawyer offered in my law school in the mid 90s, I
Yep.
wouldn't have taken my own class
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I did not have an email address
Yeah.
in my when I was in law school. I did not have a cell phone. I didn't even have my own computer. I had to go to the computer lab
Yeah.
in at the law school. So because a laptop would have cost you about $4,000 for
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
basic laptop, right? So it was those things where I couldn't have predicted the future.
You never imagined it. Yeah.
I couldn't. So, but my first job out of law school was at a computer science research laboratory
Mm.
where they brought together the most brilliant computer science researchers that you would ever like on the planet. I mean, we had in 1998, we had researchers from China, from all over Europe, from
Yep.
all over the US, from the top schools, top programs, and they were inventing the future.
Yep.
And
And
that
it's
was
fun
the
to hang
time.
around that. It's fun to be around that environment of people thinking like,
Exactly. Exactly. And there's nothing like that in law. We have no R&D in law.
we
We
have to
have
create. We have, yeah, it's a, yeah,
we have nothing. Like we
I
have
know.
nothing. And what we do have and what's being tried is being like just it's not being received well.
Right. It gets bashed by the traditional legal industry who runs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was the
But
whole
when
point of this whole Rebel Esquire thing was because I'm like, this is nonsense. And so, yeah, we can
but
go on.
and the last thing I will say is there are students that I have in my class who are going to really try to change the world.
Yes.
And there are
I,
students who are in my class who are like, they don't understand.
yeah. Yep.
Like they
Yep.
don't understand what they're walking into, what's going to happen to them. Because in their head, practicing law looks very much like something that happened in 1990.
Yep. I agree. But I think it's great that law schools are looking at, I love to talk with law students. I talk with law students all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's so much fun because you do run across more and more now. And I want to encourage them. Like, keep thinking like that. Don't let you be. I was constrained my first years of practice because I thought I had to do things a certain way. I'm like, don't
Yes.
be constrained by that coming out of law school. Do whatever you want.
I totally agree.
So the one thing we do have on the Rebel Roundtable is we have our anthems, our Rebel anthems playlist on Spotify. What
Yes.
is your rebellious anthem when you need to pump yourself up?
So it is Uprising by Muse.
Great. Perfect.
That is my anthem.
Very good. Well, I will get that added to our Spotify playlist and everyone can start listening to all of our Rebel anthems that are out there. Thank you, Kelli, so much for this
Thank you,
discussion.
Jen. I appreciate
There'll be a
it.
part two coming. And as always, find us on Friday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern on the Rebel Roundtable. And I hope to see you all next week. Thanks, Kelli.